You're wasted here. Come work for me. Privately. His breath reeked of expensive whiskey as he cornered me by the bar at the holiday party. His fingers brushed against my wrist as he leaned closer. Nobody appreciates what you do here. Not like I would. I tried to step sideways, but the wall behind me and his arm blocking my escape made that impossible. The silver-haired literary giant, my boss's husband, wasn't used to women avoiding his attention. His cologne was too strong, his presence suffocating. Mr. Harlow, I'm very happy with my current position. I gripped my water glass tighter, wishing I'd chosen wine instead. Call me Pierce. His voice dropped lower. I've read the manuscripts you've edited, the ones Isabetta takes credit for. You have an extraordinary gift. His fingers traced my forearm. Working directly for me would advance your career considerably. My skin crawled, but my mind raced. How did he know which manuscripts were mine? My boss, his wife, had sworn me to secrecy about the extent of my editing work on best-selling titles that officially bore her editorial stamp. Think about it, he pressed, hand now firmly on my lower back. You'd be my personal editor, double your salary, all the perks. His gaze traveled down my body, making his meaning unmistakable. That's when I noticed her, Isabetta, standing 15 feet away, champagne flute in hand, watching her husband proposition me. Our eyes met. She didn't look surprised. She didn't look angry. She looked calculating. She turned away, rejoining the party conversation without a word. The message was clear. My boss had sent her husband to make this offer. Or worse, she knew exactly what kind of offer he was making and was allowing it. 3 years of loyalty, 3 years of staying late to fix manuscripts other editors had declared hopeless. 3 years of accepting associate editor credits, while Isabetta received the accolades for transforming rough drafts into bestsellers. When Monday came, my inbox pinged with a message. Meeting with Isabetta, 9 a.m. Priority. I wore my most professional outfit, the one I'd purchased with the modest bonus I'd received after fixing a celebrity memoir that won a literary award with Isabetta's name in the acknowledgments. I arrived exactly on time. The winter light streamed through her office windows, illuminating the manuscript stacked on her desk, including the one I'd edited into brilliance last month, now bearing another editor's name on the cover page. You're being transferred, she said without preamble, to our West Coast office, effective immediately. I smiled because I'd already written to the board. Is something amusing? She asked, her tone sharp. Just thinking about timing, I replied. You see, your husband wasn't the first person from your household to make me an inappropriate offer. Her expression froze. 3 months ago, you suggested I ghost edit the manuscript for your friend's novel, the one she's now receiving acclaim for writing. You promised a promotion if I kept quiet. I met her gaze directly. I told the board everything this morning. She reached for her phone, but I continued speaking. I also told them how you've been assigning junior editors work to your friends for years, letting them claim authorship while the real talent stays underpaid and unnamed. You ungrateful little. The thing is, I interrupted, you could have protected your editors from your husband instead of enabling him. You could have given credit where it was due, but you chose power over integrity. Her assistant knocked, entering without waiting. The board members are here for the emergency meeting. My boss paled. They won't believe you. They already do. 5 other editors have come forward with their stories. Before I continue, I want to thank you for staying with me through this story. It's not easy sharing the darkest moments of my professional life, but your support means everything. If you're finding this story revealing about the hidden sides of the publishing industry, please consider liking this video and subscribing to hear more stories that rarely get told. Your comments help me know I'm not alone in experiencing workplace injustice. Now, let me take you deeper into how all this began. My name is Hollis, and I never planned to become an editor. My dream was to write novels, complex character studies exploring human resilience. But writing doesn't pay the bills, so I accepted an assistant position at Bennett and Hall, one of the most prestigious publishing houses in the country. I was 24, armed with an English literature degree and enough student debt to make me desperate for stability. What I lacked in connections, I made up for in dedication. I worked weekends. I read manuscripts on my commute. I studied successful books like they were sacred texts. My break came when a senior editor went on maternity leave. leaving behind a manuscript due to the printing press in 2 weeks. Nobody wanted to touch it. The author was brilliant but notoriously difficult, and the draft was a structural disaster. "I'll fix it," I told my supervisor. He laughed. "Hollis, experienced editors have tried. The author won't accept changes." "Let me try anyway," I insisted. "After hours. It won't impact my regular work." He shrugged. "Your funeral." For 10 nights straight, I dissected that manuscript, reorganizing chapters, tightening dialogue, enhancing character motivations, without changing the author's distinct voice. I wrote an extensive letter explaining each suggestion with references to the author's previous work, showing how my edits amplified his existing strengths. The author accepted every change. The book received rave reviews, specifically mentioning its impeccable structure and emotional precision. That's when Isabella noticed me. She called me into her office, that same office where, years later, she would try to banish me to the West Coast. "You have an exceptional eye," she said, studying me. "I could use someone with your talents." The promotion came with a modest raise and a new title, associate editor. What I didn't realize was that associate meant I would do the difficult editorial work while Isabella would take the credit. At first, I was grateful for the opportunity. Isabella was a legend in publishing. Her name on a book guaranteed reviews and sales. Working directly under her meant access to the industry's biggest authors. When she asked me to perform substantial edits on her projects, I assumed it was training, mentorship. Then came the Andrea Willis manuscript, a first-time author whose raw talent was buried under structural issues. I spent weeks reshaping it, transforming a promising mess into a powerful debut. When the final version landed on Isabella's desk, she nodded approvingly. "Excellent work, Hollis. I'll take it from here." When the novel was published 6 months later, the acknowledgments read, "To Isabella Harlow, whose brilliant editorial guidance brought this story to life." No mention of me. At the celebration party, Andrea hugged Isabella tearfully. "You understood exactly what I was trying to say." I stood in the background, champagne turning sour in my mouth. That night, Pierce Harlow approached me for the first time. "That Willis book, that was your work, wasn't it?" I froze. "I assisted Isabella." He laughed. "My wife hasn't actually edited a book in years. She's too busy with her literary lunches and television appearances." He sipped his drink. "She's built quite the system. Find talented young editors, use their work, advance her reputation." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because talent interests me." His eyes lingered too long. "Remember that, if you ever want a different arrangement." I avoided him after that, but his words took root. I began noticing patterns. Whenever a manuscript needed significant work, it came to me. When it was ready for publication, Isabella stepped in for the author calls, the planning meetings, the publicity. The other associate editors experienced the same treatment. We were Isabella's invisible workforce, our names buried in the copyright page, while hers shone on press releases. I might have accepted this arrangement, paid my dues, as they say in the industry, if not for what happened with the Lockhart manuscript. Belinda Lockhart wasn't just any author. She was literary royalty. Her novels defined American fiction for a generation. When she submitted her latest manuscript, the entire publishing house buzzed with anticipation. Isabella summoned me to her office immediately. "This needs to be flawless," she said, sliding the thick stack of papers across her desk. "Belinda specifically requested me as her editor again." I nodded, understanding the significance. Isabella and Belinda had worked together for 20 years. Their partnership was legendary. "I'll need to clear your schedule," Isabella continued. "Nothing else matters for the next month. This is your only priority." For once, I didn't mind the overwhelming workload. Editing Belinda Lockhart was a dream, a chance to learn from one of the greatest living writers. The manuscript was challenging but brilliant. Lockhart's latest novel tackled complex themes of identity and betrayal through the story of two childhood friends whose lives diverged and intersected across decades. The raw material was extraordinary, but the structure needed refinement. Certain characters required deeper development. The middle section dragged. I worked 16-hour days, 7 days a week. I declined dinners with friends, ignored calls from my mother, and survived on delivery, food, and determination. By the end of the third week, I'd transformed the manuscript into what I knew would be Lockhart's defining masterpiece. When I handed the edited version to Isabetta, along with my 20-page editorial letter explaining my suggestions, she seemed impressed. "You've exceeded expectations, Hollis," she said, actually smiling. "I'll review these changes before sending them to Belinda." 2 days later, Isabetta called me into her office again. Beside her sat Belinda Lockhart herself, elegant, sharp-eyed, intimidating. "Hollis," Isabetta said smoothly, "Miss Lockhart wanted to thank you for the administrative support you've provided during the editing process." Administrative support? I stared at Isabetta, momentarily speechless. I'd completely restructured the novel, suggested new scenes, and eliminated an entire subplot that weakened the narrative. Belinda nodded at me politely. "Always good to have efficient assistants handling the paperwork." "Hollis is one of our most promising junior staff members," Isabetta added, as though throwing me a bone. That evening, I stayed late, still stunned by the encounter. Passing by Isabetta's office to drop off a different manuscript, I noticed her door slightly ajar. Voices drifted out. "The changes are brilliant, Isabetta." Belinda's distinctive voice was unmistakable. That suggestion to interweave the childhood flashbacks throughout rather than keeping them in the opening chapters. It transforms the entire emotional impact. "I felt the parallel structure would heighten the betrayal in the third act," Isabetta replied, taking credit for my exact words from my editorial letter. "And cutting Gregory's character completely. I was so attached to him, but you were right. He diluted Marianne's journey. Sometimes we must kill our darlings," Isabetta said sagely, quoting my note verbatim. I stood frozen, clutching the manuscript in my hands, so tightly the pages crumpled. This wasn't mentorship. This wasn't paying dues. This was theft, intellectual and creative theft. I walked away silently, something breaking inside me. That night, I drafted a resignation letter but couldn't bring myself to submit it. Bennett and Hall was my dream workplace. The books we published mattered. I just needed to find a way to matter too. The next morning, an email arrived from Isabetta. "The board has approved your promotion to senior associate editor, effective immediately. Compensation increase of 12%. In recognition of your hard work, a bribe, a pittance, to ensure my continued silence." I accepted the promotion, but started keeping meticulous records of every manuscript I edited, every change I suggested, every note I wrote. I created a private email account and sent myself documentation after completing each project. Not for blackmail, for validation, proof that my work existed, that my mind had shaped these stories, even if my name never appeared on them. 6 months passed. Lockhart's novel won the National Book Award. In her acceptance speech, she thanked Isabetta for editorial brilliance that transformed good writing into transcendent storytelling. That same week, I was assigned to edit another high-profile manuscript, a debut novelist named Talia Quinn, who'd received a record-breaking advance based on her partial draft. The complete manuscript had finally arrived, and it was disappointing. Beautiful language, but meandering plot, inconsistent characterization. I dove in, determined to save it. After 3 weeks of intensive editing, I had restructured the entire novel. The story now unfolded like a blooming flower, each petal revealing new dimensions of the characters. I was proud of what we'd created together. Then came the email from Isabetta. "Excellent work on Quinn manuscript. I'll handle author communication from here." History repeating itself, but this time, something unexpected happened. The next day, I received a direct email from Talia Quinn herself. "Hollis, your editorial letter blew me away. The vision you have for this book is exactly what I was struggling to articulate. Can we meet to discuss your suggestions further?" My heart raced. Isabetta had forwarded my editorial letter to the author, with my name on it. Why? It made no sense, given her pattern. Unless the manuscript was expected to fail. Unless Isabetta was creating distance between herself and what she anticipated would be a critical disappointment. If the book tanked, better to have someone else's name associated with its editing. I agreed to meet Talia at a coffee shop, far from the publishing house. She was younger than I expected, barely 30, with bright eyes and nervous energy. "Your suggestions are genius," she said after we exchanged greetings. "But I'm confused. Isabetta Harlow is supposed to be my editor." I hesitated, weighing my words carefully. "Isabetta oversees the process. I handle the direct editing. So you wrote that incredible editorial letter breaking down the character arcs? Yes, and the restructuring suggestions for the middle chapters? Also me. Talia studied me. Interesting. When I met Isabetta last year, she implied she would personally edit my book. That's why I chose Bennett and Hall over other publishers offering more money. She tapped her fingers on the table. How many of Isabetta's books do you actually edit? The question hung between us. Dangerous and tempting. I shouldn't discuss internal processes, I said carefully. Of course, Talia nodded. But, hypothetically, if someone wanted to acknowledge their actual editor's contribution, how might they do that? Hypothetically, I replied, heart pounding. Acknowledgements pages are at the author's discretion. Talia smiled. Hypothetically noted. We spent the next 2 hours discussing her manuscript. Her willingness to embrace change, to push her story further, was refreshing. By the time we parted, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Recognition. Someone knew my work was mine. 3 weeks later, Talia submitted her revised manuscript. It was magnificent, all her unique voice and vision, but structured to showcase her strengths. Isabetta skimmed it, nodded with approval, and scheduled it for production. Looks like Quinn might not embarrass us after all, she commented to me. Good. Save. The months passed. Talia's novel went through production. Advanced reader copies were distributed to critics. Early reviews were ecstatic, calling it a stunning debut that defies convention, and brilliantly structured. 1 week before the book's official publication, Isabetta hosted a launch party at an exclusive Manhattan venue. Celebrities, critics, and industry power players filled the room. I stood in the background as usual, watching Isabetta introduce Talia to important connections. Pierce Harlow appeared beside me, drink in hand. Another invisible masterpiece from the talented Miss Hollis. I maintained my professional smile. Talia did the hard work. She's incredibly talented. He sipped his whiskey. My wife seems to think this book will be significant. She's already using it in her campaign for the publishing director position. This was news. Publishing director? Is Mr. Bennett retiring? Next year. Pierce leaned closer. Isabetta has been maneuvering for years. This Quinn book is her final piece of evidence that she can spot and develop major talent. His fingers brushed my arm. Although we both know who really develops it, I moved away slightly. Excuse me, I need to congratulate Talia. As I crossed the room, Isabetta clinked a glass for attention. The crowd quieted. As Talia Quinn's editor, it has been my privilege to help shape this extraordinary debut, she began. When the manuscript first crossed my desk, I instantly recognized a unique voice that needed just the right guidance to shine. Through our intensive editorial collaboration, I stopped listening, the familiar pain of erasure washing over me. But then, actually, Talia's voice cut through, taking the microphone. I'd like to add something. Isabetta's smile froze. While I'm grateful to Bennett and Hall for believing in my book, Talia continued, I want to specifically acknowledge my actual editor, Hollis, without whom this novel would never have reached its potential. Hollis's editorial insight was nothing short of transformative. The room went silent. All eyes turned to me, standing awkwardly by the bar. Isabetta's face contorted with momentary fury before she masked it with a tight smile. Of course, she said smoothly. Hollis is one of our talented associate editors who assisted with the process under my direction. No, Talia said firmly. Hollis was my editor. The only communications I received from you, Miss Harlow, were emails forwarding Hollis's editorial letters. She turned to address the crowd. In fact, I've thanked Hollis extensively in my acknowledgments, which you'll all see when the book is published next week. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. In one moment, Talia had done what I'd never had the courage to do, speak the truth publicly. Isabetta's eyes locked with mine across the room, her message clear, you'll pay for this. I realized then that everything was about to change. I just didn't know how drastically, or that 3 days later I would find myself in a hotel bar facing Belinda Lockhart herself, who would say 7 words that would alter the course of all our lives. I think we need to talk about Isabetta. I nearly dropped my drink. Belinda Lockhart, the literary icon whose novel I had transformed, was sitting alone at a small corner table, gesturing for me to join her. Miss Lockhart, I said as I approached, this is unexpected. Sit, please. Her voice was soft but commanding, And call me Belinda. I believe we're long overdue for a proper conversation. I slid into the chair across from her, my mind racing. How had she found me? Why now? I was at Quinn's launch party, she explained, as if reading my thoughts. In the back, I saw what happened. She studied me over her glasses. It took considerable courage for that young writer to publicly acknowledge you. Talia is principled. Unlike me, you mean? Belinda smiled wryly. That's fair. I started to protest, but she raised a hand. I've been working with Isabetta for over 20 years, she continued. I always suspected she had help, but the books were good. My career flourished, and I convinced myself that's how the industry works. She sighed, until I read Talia Quinn's acknowledgments page in the advance copy. She pulled a book from her bag and opened it to the final pages. My deepest gratitude to Hollis, whose editorial brilliance transformed this story. Your insights into structure, character, and narrative brought clarity to my vision without ever diminishing my voice. You are the editor every writer dreams of finding. When I read this, Belinda said, closing the book, I knew. The editorial style, the specific insights, they were identical to what I've been attributing to Isabetta for years. She leaned forward. You edited my last book, didn't you? The moment of truth had arrived. Yes. And quote. And the one before that? I swallowed hard. Parts of it. How many other editors has she used this way? At least 7 that I know of. Some left, others stay, hoping for eventual recognition. Belinda nodded slowly. I received a call from Isabetta today. She's furious about Quinn's acknowledgments. She's trying to prevent the book's release in its current form. My stomach dropped. Can she do that? She's trying. She claims breach of contract, confidentiality violations. Belinda's eyes hardened. She also mentioned you've been transferred to the West Coast office. That's news to me. My voice was steady, despite my racing heart. I imagine it would be. Belinda reached for her purse and removed a small recorder. I recorded our last 3 editorial calls with Isabetta. I'd like you to listen to something. She pressed play. Isabetta's voice emerged from the device. Belinda, darling, what if we shifted the revelation about Catherine's past to the final chapter? It would create a stunning reversal. My exact suggestion, in my exact words, from the editorial letter I'd written for Belinda's manuscript. Now, listen to this. Belinda pressed another button, advancing to a different recording. I have concerns about your new editor, Hollis, Isabetta's voice said. I've been personally handling your manuscripts, but she's been claiming credit for my editorial direction. I've received complaints from other authors as well. It's becoming a problem. The blood drained from my face. She's setting me up. Precisely. After Quinn's public acknowledgement, Isabetta is protecting herself by discrediting you. Belinda turned off the recorder. The question is, what are we going to do about it? We? I asked, cautiously. Yes, we. Along with several other authors who suspect they've been misled about who actually edited their work. Belinda smiled thinly. Talia Quinn has been making calls. The realization of what was happening hit me like a wave. You're building a case against Isabetta. I'm seeking the truth, Belinda corrected. After 20 years, I want to know who really helped shape my books, and I want to ensure they receive proper credit going forward. As we talked further, Belinda revealed that 5 major authors had already compared notes, discovering identical editorial suggestions they'd attributed to Isabetta. They were preparing to approach Bennett and Hall's board of directors collectively. We need your documentation, Belinda explained. Your original editorial letters. Any evidence you have. I have everything, I assured her, thinking of my private email account filled with 3 years of meticulous records. But confronting Isabetta could destroy careers, not just hers. Or it could restore integrity to an industry that desperately needs it. Belinda reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Think about it. You have my number. After she left, I sat alone, weighing my options. Exposing Isabetta meant potentially upending the publishing house. People could lose jobs, books might be delayed or canceled, but continuing in silence meant perpetuating a system that exploited talented editors while elevating those who took credit for others' work. The next morning, I arrived at the office to find my access card deactivated. Security escorted me to Human Resources, where I was informed of my transfer opportunity. It's not optional, Miss Hollis, the HR director said, without meeting my eyes. You'll report to the West Coast office next Monday. May I clean out my desk? Your belongings will be shipped to you. As I was being escorted out, I saw Isabetta watching from her office doorway, a small smile playing on her lips. She thought she'd won. What she didn't know was that I'd already downloaded every email, every editorial letter, every manuscript version showing my contributions. 3 years of evidence, secured the night before after my conversation with Belinda. That evening, my phone rang continuously. Colleagues confused about my sudden transfer. Talia apologizing for potentially causing trouble. Belinda checking on my decision. I didn't answer any calls. Instead, I wrote a comprehensive account of systematic credit theft at one of publishing's most respected houses, with documented evidence attached. I named names, provided dates, included before and after manuscript sections showing my uncredited work. When I finished, I had a 40-page report that could either end my career or transform an industry. Thursday night brought the annual holiday party, the same one I'd attended twice before as Isabetta's shadow. This year, my invitation had been rescinded following my transfer, but Talia Quinn insisted I attend as her +1. You belong there more than anyone, she argued. Besides, I need moral support. Everyone's treating me like I've committed some cardinal sin by crediting my actual editor. So I found myself back in the elegant hotel ballroom, wearing the dress I'd bought for what I'd thought might be my last industry event. Editors, agents, and authors mingled, many avoiding eye contact with me. News traveled fast. Isabetta held court near the center of the room, looking immaculate in a designer dress, laughing as if nothing was amiss. When she spotted me, her smile faltered momentarily before she pointedly turned away. Drink? Talia asked, returning from the bar with 2 glasses of champagne. Thanks, but I'm sticking with water tonight, I replied. I need a clear head. For what's coming? She asked knowingly. Something like that. As the evening progressed, I positioned myself near the bar, observing the room. Several authors nodded discreetly in my direction. Belinda's recruits, I assumed. The pieces were aligning. That's when Pierce Harlow approached, his confidence amplified by alcohol. The outcast returns, he said, leaning against the bar beside me. Brave of you. Just supporting my author, I replied coolly. Ah, yes, the loyal Miss Quinn. Did you know Isabetta is trying to drop her book entirely? Claims it's not meeting quality standards suddenly. My anger flared. Talia's novel is brilliant. I agree. I read the advance copy. He moved closer. You know, my wife's vendetta against you is creating an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? The kind where talents like yours could be better appreciated. His eyes traveled down my body as he leaned in. You're wasted here. Come work for me, privately. His breath reeked of expensive whiskey as he cornered me by the bar. His fingers brushed against my wrist as he leaned closer. My wife doesn't understand true talent when she sees it. I shifted away. I'm happy with my position. Think about it, he pressed, hand now firmly on my lower back. You'd be my personal editor. Double your salary. All the perks. That's when I noticed Isabetta standing 15 feet away, champagne flute in hand, watching her husband proposition me. She caught my glance and didn't look surprised or angry. She looked calculating. She turned away, rejoining her conversation without a word. In that moment, everything crystallized. This wasn't just about credit theft. This was a systematic pattern of exploitation, professional and personal, perpetrated by both Harlows. They identified talent, isolated it, exploited it, and discarded it when it became inconvenient. Pierce was still talking, outlining his opportunity when I interrupted him. Does your wife know you make these offers to her editors? Or is this part of your arrangement? He stiffened. I don't know what you mean. I think you do. You identify vulnerable talent for each other. She gets the professional credit. You get other benefits. His face darkened. You're making dangerous accusations. No, I said calmly. I'm describing a pattern, one that 7 editors and 12 authors are prepared to testify about to the board tomorrow morning. The color drained from his face. What? 9 o'clock. Emergency meeting. I assumed you knew. I smiled. After all, you're on the board. Before he could respond, I walked away, heading straight for Isabetta. The room seemed to part as I approached her. Conversations quieted. Hollis, she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. Shouldn't you be packing for California? I wanted to thank you personally, I replied, matching her tone. For making everything so clear. Clear that integrity matters more than advancement. That talent deserves recognition. I looked her directly in the eyes. That exploitation eventually fails. Her smile tightened. If you're finished with your dramatic goodbye, I'm not going anywhere, I interrupted. But after tomorrow's board meeting, you might be. Understanding dawned in her eyes. You wouldn't dare. The thing is, Isabetta, I never wanted your job. I just wanted to do mine with dignity. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. An email confirmation from the board secretary acknowledging receipt of my report. See you tomorrow. As I walked away, Isabetta grabbed my arm. You ungrateful little, she hissed. Everything all right here? Belinda Lockhart appeared beside us, 5 acclaimed authors flanking her. Behind them stood 3 editors I recognized as fellow victims of Isabetta's system. Isabetta released my arm immediately. Just a professional disagreement. Excellent, Belinda said smoothly. We can address all professional matters tomorrow morning then. She turned to me. Ready to go, Hollis? We have preparation to do. The board meeting lasted 6 hours. Editors presented evidence. Authors testified. Pierce Harlow resigned before proceedings even began. Isabetta maintained her innocence until confronted with the recorded phone calls, then shifted to justification, claiming the system benefited everyone by maintaining the prestige of established editorial names. By afternoon, the decision was unanimous. Isabetta was removed from her position. A new policy was instituted requiring transparent attribution of editorial work. Every book previously edited under false pretenses would receive corrected acknowledgments in future printings. 3 months later, Bennett and Hall announced a restructuring of its editorial department. I was appointed editorial director of a new division focused on developing debut authors. My first acquisition was a stunning manuscript by a former assistant who'd quit after Isabetta stole her editorial work. Talia Quinn's novel became a bestseller, its success untainted by controversy. Belinda Lockhart publicly acknowledged the unnamed editors whose brilliance shaped her books over the years in her next acceptance speech. The industry changed, not completely, not perfectly, but meaningfully. Other publishing houses instituted similar transparency policies, fearful of their own scandals. As for Isabetta, she opened a small literary consultancy that quickly failed when authors discovered she couldn't reproduce the editorial magic they'd expected. The sweetest moment came 6 months later, when I received an email from her. My new client needs developmental editing. Your rates are extortionate, but apparently you're the best. Would you consider a confidential arrangement? I'll take the public credit. You'll receive generous compensation. I replied with a single sentence. I only work where my name appears on what I create. Some call it revenge. I call it restoration of truth, of dignity, of an industry where words matter and those who craft them deserve recognition. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found value in this journey through the hidden workings of the publishing world, please like this video and subscribe for more stories that pull back the curtain on industries where credit isn't always given where it's due. Your comments help create community among those who've experienced similar injustices in their professional lives. Remember, speaking truth may not always be safe, but silence guarantees nothing will change.